Hi, I'm Paul Jones, and welcome to the Kirshner Gallery here at the Fairfield Public Library in Fairfield, Connecticut, where I'm part of a group show called People and Places. Since I use a pinhole camera, most of my photographs are of places. But just because they're places doesn't mean that they're not about people or the spirit of people. And what I've done is set the show up so most of it is about the places part in the beginning of the show, and then towards the end introduce people and go on from there. Now, one thing about looking at photographs is the photographer has a little different take on what's going on than the viewer, because the photographer is actually there. So they have a different sense of place. And just because the viewer doesn't have that same sense of space or place doesn't mean that what they take away is the same as the photographer or not as valid. So just keep that in mind as we go through, but I'm giving you my perspective on the photographs. Saw this image in the first video, and it's of a pier at the beach, and while there's no one present in the shot, it certainly implies that there are people. It's a pier. You can sense that fishermen use it all the time. Kids are running up and down the path, and then maybe lovers go there and building coup. It's a beautiful day. It's a perfect time. And again, though no people are there, they're certainly implied. And as we go on, this next shot is of a beach house, the showers. And this one is a little more eerie because I get the sense that there's nobody around. It's still the beach. You can see in the shot there's some shower activity took place, but the tonal values are more subdued, and it's sort of like the shot in the last video of the parking lot in Baltimore, a single car in the middle of a busy parking lot downtown, and there's just nobody around, and it's just a little eerie. What's going on? The next shot is of an overpass. It's a bridge. It's the underside of the bridge, and knowing that, you know, cars are traveling above you, there are people, there's activity, there's stuff going on all around, but it's just void of people. In this case, it's a good, strong graphic image, but we're missing folks. This shot is of the Holocaust Memorial in Berlin, and the people implied are those poor souls who perished under terrible conditions. And we don't know those people, we don't know what they went through, and we don't know what acts of personal heroism took place, but it's sort of a powerful reminder, and though there's no one there, they are certainly implied. And we move on to this photograph of a church in France where there's the same dark feeling as the Holocaust Memorial, but we have light coming in. There are chairs set up in the background, so it's not such an ominous feeling, and we really get the sense that there are people milling around. This exposure was a half hour, and there were people all over the place. And in fact, as I was taking the photograph, people would ask me what I was doing and ask me about the pinhole camera. And on occasion, what would happen is somebody would come around and look at the front of the camera, just about like that. But since the exposure was 30 minutes, that just doesn't show up. And we move on to the columns at the Brandenburg Gate, again in Berlin. And this is the sister shot to the columns at the church. I knew they'd go together, or at least that was my intent when I shot it. And again here, though there are no people, while I was taking the photograph, people all around. So I sense the people implied in this shot. And I always expect somebody to just pop out around from that column at any moment. So there's great activity. And we move on to the next shot. And this, we actually have a couple of people in the shot. Here, and there's somebody floating around back there. But in fact, this shot really is about the place. It's, I just like the shape of the pavilion It's the Charlottesville Pavilion in Virginia. And I like the separation of earth and sky by this nice arch. So we can move on to the next shot. And this one is about activity, people all over the place. It's a festival. These folks are sitting down eating their fried dough, having a great time. You can see the rides going in the background. You know, you can almost hear the noises and smell the vendors' foods. And so again, you know, here, great activity implied. However, on the next shot, this was done strictly for visual appeal. I liked the sky, the reflection was terrific. I like the structure, and you can see glass balls floating around. I don't know how well you see it on the camera, but it was a Chihuly, Dale Chihuly, eminent glass artist in the United States, probably the world. And he had an exhibit at the Bronx Botanical Gardens. And it was a lot of fun, it was great. There are people all around, but again, this was about place. And if we move on to the next shot, we see it's about place. It's Brigantine, New Jersey. It's a beach, but now we see activity. We see people around. You sense that they're at the beach having a good old time, at least I do. It's a hot day, but again, it's also a pretty decent graphic image. If we move on to the next one, again, we're at the beach, and now we have a lot of people, and we're starting to get a little closer to the folks. But what I really like about this shot is the fact that the beach fades into the water and it fades into the sky. So it's difficult to tell where the sand ends and the sky begins. And you have the waders in the water just sort of floating around. It's a little mystical. I like that shot. And we move on and we really get into the people part of the exhibit. And these last shots were taken at the Mermaid Parade in Coney Island. And it's a great event, and it's hard not to get good photographs there. And these are about nothing more than the people in the shots. They're just nice, whimsical, fun to look at pictures. These are, I don't know, I call this the opera mermaids. You know, it's the Wagnerian theme there. And as we move on, we have Neptune and his lovely mate. And I decided to end the show with an exclamation point. It's a single person, and you've reached the police lines. You're at the end. And that's it. Thanks for looking. Take care.